Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of the Irish Angle on Jump to It. As usual, I'm joined by Johnny Ward and Emma Nagle, and we're going to discuss all the topics to do with Irish racing, which at the minute mainly includes no racing. Johnny, Emma, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vincent.
Thanks, Vinny.
I hear you were both in Cork yesterday, so that's the one proper race meeting we've had in the last while. Everything else is getting cancelled, and it looks like we're going to have a few cancelled this week, particularly in the UK, but probably here as well. Cork with Energumene, that was the big one. Emma, were you impressed?
Yeah, no, it was a good day in Cork yesterday. Great racing, but I was surprised they didn't push for the John Durkin to be ran in Cork, because timing wise now it's going to be getting very close to Leopardstown, and they're probably not going to get it run this week in Punchestown. So it was surprising it wasn't really mentioned much. Would have been brilliant to have it run there. I mean, I don't think anyone would have really objected to it, maybe except for Punchestown Racecourse themselves, because you're going the same direction. The horses were ready to run. So that was kind of surprising to me, but no, it was a great day anyway. And Energumene, I suppose the race was a bit of a non-event, but it was great to see him in the flesh at the same time. You wouldn't really say he was foot perfect. He did get in a bit tight to some, probably a bit of lack of concentration more than anything else. But no, he was impressive, and like looking at the champion chase picture now, like it's kind of hard to see him being beat. I think he's odds on at the moment, which is crazy thinking of this time of the year. Obviously losing Shishkin was a massive blow to losing him to 2 miles, I suppose, is a big blow to that division, because you look at the betting now, it's just Energumene and Edwardstone. Apart from that, I think the next in the betting is John Bon, who isn't going to even run in the race, and outside that, it's kind of all no hopers. So it's not looking like the strongest division, and Energumene probably is the best of them at the moment.
Yeah, and another odds-on shot for Cheltenham after Constitution Hill and the Champion Hurdles. There's two of the main races now with odds-on shots. Johnny, how did you enjoy your day down there?
I did enjoy it, Vinny. Yeah, I thought the course deserves huge credit for getting the racing to go ahead. Like on the train down, every single field, pretty much every time you looked out, it was white. It was either frost or kind of snow on the ground, and somehow, by all accounts, Mallow had to go above and beyond now to keep the track kind of raceable, but they did a great job. And I suppose a few things to point out. Energumene for me wasn't really the highlight, because he basically had a schooling session. He was very good, but like there's only so much you can read into that. And I hope Emma's wrong in the sense of these sort of no hopers in the race, because I backed Blue Lord each way, and I think it's still a great bet given that the race is sort of falling apart. And you mentioned all these odds on shots. This is a problem with Cheltenham being diluted to the extent now that horses that might have run here can go on the Ryanair, and the novice division is obviously so cut up. There are mares races and so on and so forth, which I just think that the fact that we've so many odds-on shots at Cheltenham already is not good at all. But in terms of the performances yesterday, Henry de Bromhead's 2 novices, Arctic Brazil and the horse that won the novice hurdle, Hidden Valley Lake, I thought was uber impressive, considering it looked like it was a strong race. And great day for Henry. I thought the performance of Impervious was brilliant as well. Super jumping performance from her, and it was a great day's racing, and massive kudos to everyone in Mallow for getting it to go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. Fair dues to them. They should have been up at Dublin Airport on Friday morning for me, because I was trying to get back from the UK, and there was all sorts of issues with frost there and de-icing and everything else. So I had planes, trains and automobiles of a day now, going from London City Airport, 3 cancelled flights there. Then I had to go to Heathrow, across London in rush hour traffic to Heathrow, where there was another 2.5 hour delay just to get through security. And then when I arrived in there were 5 Aer Lingus flights due to go to Dublin, all on hold, some of them from 1 o'clock in the day, and this was at 7:30 at night. But anyway, finally got home, which was good. Other people didn't, and there's still trouble there at the minute over the last couple of days. The UK now is in trouble with their weather as well, so all sorts of issues for people travelling, especially with Christmas getting close. Anyway, we move on. Honeysuckle, one other thing that I see there's a story this morning. Henry de Bromhead is now talking about the Mares Hurdle as opposed to the Champion Hurdle as a possible target for longer term for Cheltenham. Emma, what do you think? Is he seeing sense here finally?
Look, I suppose it all depends on how she goes at Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival. Look, if she's beat there, you'd imagine that's probably the way she's going to go. But if she beats Stateman, I think she well deserves her chance in the lining up. We've talked about this plenty, but I don't know. I'm still kind of undecided on it, but I suppose it all depends on Leopardstown now. I suppose Henry doesn't want to see her getting a bad beating, but I don't think they've made their minds up yet, and I'm sure they'll make the right choice in the end, going by the mare.
Yeah, no, I
Hopefully.
agree. I'd say they haven't made their mind up, but it's interesting that they're now putting that into the options, that the mare's hurdle is an option, and I think for me personally, it's probably a great option. Let her go out in a win at the Cheltenham Festival, which is what we all want to see with her before she goes off to the paddocks. Johnny, what do you think? You're still thinking she has a chance in the champion?
No, I don't really know after the Hatton's Grace, Vinny. And I was telling Henry de Bromhead, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, that she should be going over fences. So maybe now is the time to launch a novice chase career, considering Faugheen was nearly 12 when he won a Grade 1 at Leopardstown. Like, she's relatively young. I'd love to see her over a fence. But I to be honest, I think it's not the fact that the unbeaten record is gone now. I think it's fair enough to look at other options and see she's not going to be Constitution Hill. I think that's fair to say. She just wouldn't have as much. It wasn't a terrible run at the Hatton's Grace, but I don't think she, at this stage, if she ever had, she doesn't have the speed that he has. His performances are a level ahead of her. And let's see what happens at Christmas. I didn't actually see the interview yesterday. I was working for Racing TV, but strangely enough, the TV beside us, I couldn't actually hear when Gary O'Brien was interviewing Henry, and by all accounts, it was a great interview, so I have to listen back. But I think Henry has so many exciting horses ahead now that Honeysuckle she's only kind of part of the jigsaw.
Good stuff. Yeah, look, I hope he's a great season, and I hope she is a great season. So let's see what all unfolds. No point getting too pessimistic about her at this stage. Then the other big story from last week, as I said, the weather was the big one, I suppose. But for most racing people, there was a big case from the IHRB. They've been 2 years investigating Ronan McNally and all things to do with his owning of horses, training of horses, and everything else. And they came out with their findings, and at a referrals committee hearing, which went on for 4 separate days, which I think is unprecedented as well. Johnny, what did you make of this?
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to have a definitive opinion on this, Vinny. And I do find the extraordinary improvement shown by horses that Ronan McNally has trained. I find it quite grating for somebody who wants to study form, but at the same time, I think Ronan is good for the game in some respects. I think the talent that he's shown as a trainer, and the fact that he's training from a racing backwater, really training only a handful of horses, and the success that he's had, kind of shows people that the dream is possible. And as much as I would laud the IHRB for the effort that it has put into a really, really complex investigation, and I think Ronan, like a lot of trainers, he plays the game. You want to get horses handicapped, and you want to get the best out of your horses and get them to win races and so on. And Ronan admits himself, I spoke to him yesterday, that he doesn't mind having a punt in his horses, and I like the fact that at least he says that, and other trainers waffle about never backing their horses or not knowing where a gamble came from. Ronan will admit that he does like to back his horses when they're when they're in the best of form. The issue I would have with this is, if you're Northern Ireland is a great place for whataboutery, and if you're going to throw the book at Ronan McNally to the extent that the IHRB did last weekend, and if you would apply that to every trainer, and I mean from the bottom to the top now, including people that are celebrated for their love of the game and what they do for others in the game and so on and so forth, we'd probably have no trainers left. So this is the complexity of it, and I think they've literally made a scapegoat out of Ronan, and that's my problem with this, in the sense that there are far more people that they could throw the book at, and we'll have to throw the book at, and they'll have to retrospectively look at other races. And if they're retrospectively looking at horses that they deemed to be non-triers 2 years ago, the list will go to about 10 million.
Yeah, that is the problem, isn't it? That look, the big issue for me in all of this is that what's happened is they've come along after his initial horses started to win. Dreal Deal would be the obvious one. Had 11 runs under different codes, never cited on 11 races, including one in the UK, 10 here. Nothing untoward in any of those runs, according to the stewards. They never saw anything on the day. Nothing ever popped up at all about the horse in relation to its running and riding. And no questions were asked to jockeys or of McNally after any of those runs. Then all of a sudden the horse starts winning, won 5 races in the space of a couple of months, and shoots up the ratings. So what they've said is here that this is the IHRB have said that this horse was achieving, or horses to do with him were achieving, a pattern of improvement in form of horses at a level previously unfamiliar to experienced, long-serving handicapping officials, right? So they're saying their handicappers had never seen the likes of this before. Well, they may not have seen the pattern, fair enough, okay, but they have certainly seen the likes of it before. There's lots of examples, hundreds of examples of similar horses improving for all sorts of reasons. Horses go and win 3 races in a week. Other ones win a series of races over a period of months, and their rating shoots up in whatever code they're racing in. But what they've done here is they've gone and said, this is unprecedented as far as we're concerned. So we looked at the pattern of all of this, and they've gone back and re-examined all of these races that these horses ran in before they achieved their handicap ratings. And that's the first time I've ever seen that happen. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is they've looked back at it. In a couple of instances, they found horses that they say didn't try. There were 2 of them altogether. They found 2. They found the Jam Man and they found Real Deal, both in an amateur riders maiden in Navan one day. And what they've said is that those 2 horses didn't try. It turns out that the stewards on the day brought in Ronan McNally for the ride on the Jam Man, which he rode himself. They brought him in for that. He explained, as he was the trainer, the owner, and the jockey, he explained all sorts of things around the horse and issues and everything else. They noted those explanations and they cautioned him. But there was no sanction against them. And the other horse, Real Deal, they didn't notice anything. Now they're telling us that horse didn't try that day. They haven't given us any evidence. They've just told us that that's their finding and it's been proven, but we haven't seen the actual video of it or whatever else may come about. So they're the only ones out of all the horses that they ran, including Real Deal's 10 other races before it got a handicap mark. They haven't been able to find a whole lot wrong here in the running and riding, with the exception that they did say that on 3 occasions the horse missed the break, and they've gone and they've sanctioned each of the riders in those 3 races for not reporting the fact that they missed the breaks, which is a minor infringement of the rules. And then, as well as that, Emma, the other thing is they've said that Ronan McNally is being charged with not schooling his horses properly before in stalls before running in those races. But as you pointed out to me off air, sure, he had to have schooled them because he had to get a stall certificate off the IHRB before those horses could run in those flat races. So what do you make of it, Emma?
Yeah, look, I mean, I agree with Johnny in a lot of those points. It does kind of seem, I mean, while no one can doubt the improvement shown by like the Real Deal especially, that kind of annoyed a lot of people. I think it was just made so obvious, the improvement, but at the same time, like he just kind of seems like an easy target because, you know, he's not the first man to do this and he's not going to be the last. But some of the charges brought up, I mean, you'd have to kind of question how much proof they really have against Ronan, because, you know, some of the charges are quite major, and it just kind of makes you question, why are they including these minor charges like the stall certs and a few other things shown in there. It's just like they're trying to build this big case, but it'll be interesting to see how much evidence there actually is. I listened to Ronan, he was talking to Nick Luck on his podcast earlier in the week, and he was very adamant that they had absolutely no proof of the insider information charge, which, you know, is probably one of the most major on the rap sheet that was put out by the IHRB. So the appeal is going to be very interesting to see what they really have, because a charge like that, he was passing. What they're saying is that he was passing information on the well-being of the horses, and there's probably a bit of a welfare issue raised there as well, because they're saying that Ronan knew the horses were sick and he was running the horses while they were ill, which probably explains a lot of the improvement shown. But, you know, I don't think any trainer should be running a horse that they know isn't medically fit to run. They were saying the horse had tested for respiratory issues, so, and that he was passing this information on to others to lay the horse. I mean, that's kind of an issue in itself. If that is proven, that's a welfare issue on top of all of the other more ethical issues involved. But look, the appeal is going to be very interesting to see what they actually really have, because at the moment it's kind of all up in the air in my head anyway, because, like you said, a lot of the charges were said to be proven, but we got no proof as to what proven actually meant. In some of them, it was quite conspicuous. Some of the the professional jockeys, I think, were proven to be innocent, but maybe the smaller names were proven to be guilty, which didn't seem, without much explanation, it kind of didn't come across very well in my eyes anyway.
Yeah, the other thing that's not made clear here as well, because there's no sanctions issued against Ronan McNally from this. All we've got 30 charges. Some of them have subsections within the charges, and we have been told at the end of it that the referrals committee had either been satisfied that something was proven or dissatisfied and said it's not proven for a particular charge. What we're not sure of here is, in several instances, one particular one, I'll just read it off another screen while I'm here, where it goes into the fact that Ronan McNally was charged with charge 9, where we have 7 different counts in this. It's Rule 273, section whatever, 14 or something. And it's alleged that McNally, through the following conduct as a licensed trainer, caused serious damage to the interests of horse racing in Ireland. And then there's 7 different charges around that. And they found the committee was satisfied that items 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 have been proved on the evidence, but 2 of them haven't. So I'm not sure, does that mean that he's still guilty of that particular charge, or is he not? Because 2 of the items out of the 7, they're not satisfied that they've been proven. So we still don't know about that, where that all sits in the end. But we'll have to wait and see. It looks like it's going to be January. There'll probably be an appeal process around this. Ronan McNally has already indicated he's going to appeal. And then, of course, we've another little episode in the saga this evening in Dundalk, or the last race in Dundalk, where he runs Real Deal. And we've got Dylan Brown McMonigal riding the horse, and it's currently favourite, drifting at the moment. Evens out to 6-4 as we record this, but it'll be interesting to see. And Johnny, you're hoping to be there and to interview him.
I am. I'm not 100% sure if the interview will take place. Maybe if it wins, it will. But the Real Deal, I think it's written in the stars now, Vinny, that he wins tonight. But just the one last thing I'll say in this, like, I've spoken to a load of trainers, at least 5 off the top of my head, who would have a horse with a particular owner, and the trainers themselves don't know on the day what the horse will do. Like, so there's that at one level, and then there's throwing the book at Ronan McNally. And I think there's, definitely a situation in Ireland where you throw the book at one lad, but you let others away with a lot of things. And I think that's what's at the heart of this. There isn't a consistent rule for everyone. Some trainers are equal, and some individuals are equal, but some are more equal than others, to borrow from Orwell.
Yeah, Animal Farm, one of my favourite books when I was in school. There you go. Anyway, look, we've talked about it. We're not going to solve it because it's still in the process of being solved. We'll know more about it, obviously, in the new year and see what comes of that. But it'll be interesting to watch the Real Deal this evening anyway, whatever else happens. Looking back at the week then, there wasn't a whole lot of racing, but did you each find one for our viewers to follow going forward? Johnny, what was your best one of the week?
Yeah, you mentioned Animal Farm in school, Vinny, Animal Farm school. It actually kind of almost reading Animal Farm as part of my studies kind of got me into journalism and got me to love the English language. It was better at Irish, but the Cadahorla means what happened, and what happened in the 12:45 at Cork yesterday. Cadahorla was reduced. So he's a horse from Colin Murphy in the McManus colours. He's by Flemingford. I'm just looking at he's actually out of a Galileo mare who there is no point, who won for John Joe Neal. I actually did a bit of study in this yesterday. So JP has any amount of horses now that have the dam has actually won a race, and he sent an awful lot of them to walk in the park, and he's unbelievable. I've never seen the team of young horses JP McManus has. A lot of them juveniles, a lot of them off the flat, but a lot of them just very well bred out of mares that he owned himself, and this is the kind of longevity of him in the game. But I think this horse is, I don't know what sort of mark he's going to get, but he's absurdly well handicapped, whatever mark he gets.
Okay, well, the one I liked was in the same race, the winner of it, Arctic Bresel, which you mentioned earlier from Henry de Bromhead. I thought that was very impressive. Really liked that. I think the second horse is probably decent anyway, that Mercury of Willie Mullins's. Arctic Bresel, definitely one to follow. It's related somewhat to Constitution Hill. It's by Blue Bresel and out of another King's Theatre mare. So they're somewhat related. I don't think it'll reach that level, but it'll certainly win some more races. Emma, what was your pointer from the week?
I'm going to go with a kind of an obvious one as well. I thought Blood Destiny for Willie Mullins in the opener Cork yesterday was very impressive. I was just really impressed by his jumping. He just seems so smart and really natural over his hurdles. It was actually, Willie had a nice little interview afterwards. Actually, I think he said his work at home, he didn't think he was that good. They were kind of questioning the money they paid for him, but Paul Townend put him up as kind of up there at the top of Willie's juvenile hurdlers, and he was visually very impressive to me. So, I kind of find it hard to knock him, and he's still about 20-1 for the Triumph, which for a Willie Mullins horse after a debut like that, I think is not a bad price.
Good stuff. Well, look, it's all going to be weather watch for the rest of the week. I think I'm just hoping that it doesn't have a longer term impact on Cheltenham, or sorry, not Cheltenham, but Leopardstown Christmas, Limerick Christmas, Down Royal, and all the rest of it. The Christmas festivities, it's always a great time of year. Kempton and Chepstow and all the rest of it over the Christmas period. It'll be fantastic racing. Let's hope we get it. Let's hope we get proper ground for it is the other thing, because Leopardstown has had issues with this before that you'd imagine they'd be almost watering at this stage under normal circumstances, but they obviously can't because the ground is frozen. So let's hope it all thaws later in the week and everything works out fine. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all again next week.